Okay, so last week we made a pinch pot. Remember, a pinch pot starts with a ball, and we stuck our thumb inside and we pinched around the edge until we have a line around here. That's about as wide as my pinky. Whenever you're making it, you kind of tap it down so that the evenness around the top layer kind of makes it like a perfectly round pot. So we also, last week, you either printed or you drew on a separate sheet of paper your idea for your pinch pot. So if my idea was to include some different lines that I've learned in art, or some different shapes I've used and talked about, either geometric shapes like circles and triangles and squares, or organic shapes, which are those shapes that we find in nature. Think of like spilled milk, or the shape of a fish, or the shape of a paw print. Those are kind of using organic shapes. So you've learned all about line and shape. Now when you've learned about form, which in art is 3D shapes, we learned that a couple weeks ago. So now we're looking at different designs that we can add. Is it a pattern? Remember, a pattern is something that repeats. Is it a line or a shape that repeats? So I'm just coming up with a little plan. If you didn't do this last week, you want to kind of come up with your idea before you get started, because once you get onto your pinch pot, there really is no erasing anymore like we can do on paper if we were using pencil. So I've got my idea. There's a place for your name. If your school uses a class code, for example, for my school is K for kinder and whatever color group I am. Yours may be your K for kinder and your teacher, first letter of your teacher's name. So at my school, it may be a little different than yours. So that is my plan that I can take a picture of on my Chromebook so I can send it to my teacher to let her know what I've done, or him, what you have done. Now I'm ready to use my plan on my pinch pot. I have some choices here. If I picked up my washable watercolors, your school may have Prang or Crayola. I can use my watercolors. Remember, these are not wet yet, so I'm gonna have to add a little bit of water. I'm gonna take a dip, let it drip, and then I'm gonna add that color. I like to pet the paint like I'm petting a puppy, because I don't want to dig out that watercolor. And the more you pet that paint, the darker that color is going to end up being. So I started my idea with a zigzag. So using the pointed end of my brush, I don't want to have too much water, so if you have a paper towel handy, I'm just going to use my paper. I don't want it to drip. Okay, I'm going to start adding in my idea. Now ideas can change, so do not worry. If I want to start with this idea and then change it up, maybe I want to continue that color along the top edge and use the pointy part of my brush to do some dots. It is up to you. You have the artistic's license, which means that you can change your plan as long as you're going along. So I'm going to go ahead and continue painting my pot. Now, when you're done, if you have some extra clay, I'm going to show you another way and something else that you can create using your clay. So on this one, we're making our pinch pot. We're trying to come up with our plan and execute our plan, which means we are actually painting it right on top of our pinch pot. You can paint inside. You can write a word or a different shape. Let's say I wanted to give this as a gift. I can paint a heart in there. So that is painting right on the surface of your pinch pot. Now, when you're making your pinch pot, another option would be to press things into it. If I have a popsicle stick, or if I want to use the end of my paintbrush, I could have pressed in some designs like circles or lines into the along the inside or the outside of your pinch pot. So let me move that aside and show you something else. If you have some more Model Magic clay, or you can purchase Model Magic clay at Walmart, Target, Hobby Lobby, or Michael's. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and slide that over. Now my easiest trick for opening my Model Magic clay is I take my scissors and I will cut off both sides, the part that keeps your clay from drying out. And then using my scissors, I'm going to put one side inside my bag, and I'm just going to cut right along the edge. Okay, so I've opened up my clay. Awesome. I could even use my scissors on my clay. It's not like real clay that comes from the earth, like the story, The Pot That Juan Built, or Maria Martinez's clay. You can actually, since this is man-made clay, it's kind of like a squishy marshmallow, you can cut into your clay. So some options for your extra clay. Let's say I want to make a medallion. A medallion is something that you wear around your neck. We've practiced with our clay I'm going to roll it out. Now, if you didn't get your Model Magic clay, this can also be done with salt dough. And we sent a recipe last week if you want to do salt dough on the very last slide. Now, using my hand, I'm going to press down. Another thing you can do is take the bottom of your shoe and press down, especially if it has a really cool pattern. So you can take and make a really cool, make sure it's about as flat as a cookie. If it gets too flat, it's just going to break. So this is going to be my medallion. Using either a straw or that paintbrush, I can make a hole just by pressing all the way through and kind of going around a little bit. Now I've got a hole, I can add some string or yarn to that later. Or if you're someone who celebrates a holiday that likes to hang things on a tree or anywhere in your house, you can actually put a little hook in this. Use a paper clip as a hook, and then you can use this as a decoration. So now I have some options. I can press things into my clay. We talked about texture before. Texture's the way something feels. So you notice how we're starting to reuse a lot of that art vocabulary, those words that we use. So I can press things into the clay, or using some of this other extra bits over here. Let me show you another option. You can take this, and I tell my kids, it's kind of like making pizza, cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza. Okay, I'm gonna roll a ball. If you take your hand like you're washing the windows into a circle, you're rolling a ball. And then this is gonna be my pizza dough. So my pizza dough, I'm gonna flatten it out. This pizza dough, we don't want too thick. It's not a pizza ball, it's pizza. Pizza's kind of flat. Now using my marker, or you can use your watercolor. Here, I'll just use my watercolor. I'm gonna use some of that blue again since it's already wet. This is gonna be your sauce. So I'm gonna paint just the sauce, my blue sauce pizza, but I'm not going all the way to the edge, and here's why. I'm gonna turn that pizza into a quesadilla. That way I don't get that color all over my fingers. And then I'm gonna start doing something called kneading. Kneading is where you're pushing into the clay and folding. Pushing, if you've ever made homemade biscuits or helped with pizza dough at home, we're mixing up that clay, which if you were cooking or baking, it would be flour, water, eggs, and I'm mixing it into there. If you were using real clay, this would help. This is called wedging, and that helps get rid of air bubbles. Because real clay, you actually have to bake it in a machine called a kiln, and what it does is it becomes very hard like a rock. Okay, so you can see how it's starting to change color. I'm going to show you how I can also do the same thing with marker. Now crayon's not going to work very well. Sharpie doesn't work very well. Black and white make gray. So if you're trying to make black, it doesn't work very well when you're mixing it with white because you're always going to get a lighter color. So I'm going to knead the clay, and then I can use this on my medallion that I'm making. Push, 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 twist, twist. If that's hard, just twist, twist, twist. Pretend it's like silly putty or gum, not gum that you've chewed. Okay, twist, twist, twist. And then I can take these and I can make lines. I can make shapes. Maybe I want to do this really cool swirl and then put it right on the clay. Oh, it just looks like polka dot. We'll just make it a polka dot. So you can make different colors with your extra clay. You can make a little sculpture. You can make a necklace. Maybe I want to do a letter for my name. So I'm going to put an A right there. Maybe I want this to be a little heart, so I can take the top of that circle and press it in. Got a little heart, that's cute. And I can start making a necklace and just flatten it down a little bit and it should stay. If it ever falls off, you can use liquid glue to glue it right back on. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on my necklace called a medallion. Remember, you can use lines and shapes. I'm going to continue working on my pinch pot inspired by the artist Maria Martinez and the artist Juan Cazeta. That was in the story, the pot that Juan built. Okay, so I hope you had fun this week learning and sculpting with your Model Magic clay. Have a fantastic day.